All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about one of the biggest, most fundamental questions in all of politics. What do we do about change? I mean, it's everywhere, right? It's constant. And how we choose to answer that question, well, it pretty much shapes everything. So, let's get into it.
So, the philosopher G.W.F. Hegel said this more than 200 years ago. And wow, has it ever felt more true than right now? He was looking at his world and seeing it just completely break away from the past, entering this huge period of transformation. And that feeling he described, that sense of being in constant transition, well, with all the crazy technological and social shifts happening today, it feels like that's just been put on fast forward.
Yeah, you could say that if there's one thing that defines modern life, it's change. It's the one constant. Think about it. Our economies, our societies, even our governments, they're all in this state of constant motion. It's so different from the past, where people looked for timeless, unchanging truths. For us, we just take it for granted that things are always going to be changing.
And that right there brings us to the real heart of the matter. We can all agree that change is happening. No one's debating that. But how we should respond to it? Oh man, that's where the massive disagreements start. Is all this change a good thing? Is it progress, or is everything falling apart? Should we embrace it with open arms, fight it tooth and nail, or maybe try to guide it somehow? This right here is the core problem of political change.
Okay, so let's look at the first big answer to that question. This is an idea that has, frankly, dominated the modern world: the belief in progress. The idea that history is basically one long forward march.
So what does that really mean? Well, at its heart, progress is this incredibly optimistic idea that humanity is always getting better. That through our own brainpower and hard work, we're slowly but surely moving away from things like poverty and ignorance and heading toward more knowledge, more freedom, just a better world, In this way of thinking, change is fundamentally a good thing.
So what's the engine driving this whole forward march? Well, if you're a believer in progress, the answer is simple: reason, human reason. The idea is that our ability to think logically, to analyze problems, and to understand the world using science, that's what gives us the power to actually shape our own destiny. We're not just stuck with what the past gave us. We can learn from it and actively build something better for the future.
But, and this is a huge but, even if you believe in progress, there's a massive split right down the middle about how to actually make it happen. It's like a giant fork in the road. Do you try to reform the system we have, working from the inside to make it better, or do you just tear the whole thing down and start from scratch? And that's the classic divide: reform versus revolution.
Let's break that down a bit. On one side, you've got reform. This is all about slow, steady, peaceful change. You're basically trying to patch up the holes in the system we already have, not throw the whole thing out. You could call it change with continuity. But then you have revolution, and that's a whole different ballgame. We're talking about a radical break from the past, sudden, often violent change that wants to replace the entire system with something brand new.
And when we say revolution, we're talking about the big ones, right? Like the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution. These are events defined by dramatic, sudden chaos. You often see mass uprisings, even civil war. And the goal? It isn't just to swap out who's in charge, it's to completely remake the very foundations of society. For a revolutionary, tinkering with a broken system is just a waste of time. You gotta burn it down and start fresh.
And really, who captured that revolutionary spirit better than Karl Marx? This quote just says it all. He wasn't interested in just sitting around thinking about the world. For him, philosophy wasn't some academic game. The whole point of understanding the world was to get the tools you needed to go out and radically change it.
Okay, so not everyone is buying into this whole relentless march of progress idea, not by a long shot. So let's turn to our second path, which is really a powerful counterargument to all this. We're talking about the wisdom of tradition, the idea of using the past as an anchor in what can feel like a really chaotic sea of change.
And the perspective of tradition poses a really interesting challenge. It asks, in our big rush to build this shiny new future, are we accidentally destroying things from the past that are actually super valuable? What if the wisdom we're looking for isn't in some grand plan for tomorrow, but it's right there in what's been handed down to us by the generations that came before? I love how the philosopher Michael Oakeshott puts this. He explains that being a traditionalist or a conservative isn't about thinking the past was some perfect golden age. It's not that at all. It's about preferring what you know, the familiar, the actual thing in front of you, over some risky, unknown, perfect future. It's about choosing the laughter you have today over some promise of utopian bliss tomorrow. It's really about valuing stability and security.
So what exactly is tradition? Well, it's pretty much everything that gets handed down to us from the past, right? Our customs, our laws, our institutions, our beliefs. You can think of it as the collected wisdom of countless generations. And from a traditionalist point of view, these things have stuck around for a reason. They contain a kind of wisdom that we might not even be able to put into words. And to just toss them aside for the sake of progress, well, that's seen as incredibly arrogant and maybe even a little foolish.
All right, that brings us to our third and final path. And this one might be the most radical of them all. It's a step beyond just simple progress. We're talking about the dream of utopia, the idea that you can actually design and build a perfect world from scratch.
See, utopianism isn't just about making things a little bit better. Nope. It's about making them perfect. It's the belief that we can literally draw up a detailed blueprint for the ideal society, a world that's perfectly just, perfectly free, perfectly stable, and then pour all our energy into making that blueprint real.
But this is where we run into a huge problem, the utopian dilemma. Because on the one hand, dreaming of a perfect world can be an amazing source of inspiration, right? It can motivate us to fight against injustice and imagine a much better future. But on the other hand, that relentless drive for an impossible ideal can be used to justify some truly terrible things. I mean, think about it. If you're convinced you have the one true plan for perfection, what lines won't you cross to make it happen?
Okay, so there we have it. 3 really different ways of thinking about change. You've got the forward march of progress, the steady anchor of tradition, and the perfect blueprint of utopia. Let's pull them all together and see how they stack up.
So if you look at how they see change itself, for progress, it's a good thing, an inevitable march forward. For tradition, it's a potential threat that you have to handle very carefully. And for utopia, change is a project, a destination you're trying to build. And their core beliefs? Progress trusts in reason and science. Tradition believes wisdom comes from the past. And utopia? It believes a perfect society can be designed and built. And that leads to their methods: reform or revolution for progress, conservation for tradition, and for utopia, it's all about following that master plan.
And here's the most important takeaway from all of this. These aren't just some dusty old ideas from a philosophy textbook. They are active, living, breathing mindsets that are shaping our political debates right now, every single day. Seriously, next time you're listening to people argue about politics or policy, listen closely. I guarantee you'll start to hear these voices. The reformer, the revolutionary, the person holding onto tradition, and yeah, even the utopian dreamer.
So that leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. As you look at the world around you today, all the arguments, all the movements, all the conflicts shaping our lives, which path do you think we're on? Are we on that forward march of progress? Are we clinging to the anchor of tradition? Or are we chasing that dream of a perfect utopia? The answer we choose, well, that's what's going to define our future.